everyone! Welcome to episode 22 of Otomate.
I'm Vki.
And I'm Vka.
And we are sisters who play Otomate games.
Thank you for joining us on episode 22. This is our second installation of Reviews and Twos for Piofiore.
Which means that this episode is the spoiler-heavy version. So if you don't want to hear about spoilers for Piofiore Faded Memories, or if you haven't played the game yet, then listen to episode 21 and maybe don't listen to this one.
That's right. Come back to this one after you've played. So as we've said before, in this mini-series, our Reviews and Twos, we're reviewing Otomate games that we've played together by discussing them in 2 episodes. The first episode is a spoiler-free version of our opinions. That's the last one, episode 21. And the second is more of a reaction episode with heavy spoilers. And that's what we're doing today. So this episode on Piofiore Faded Memories is, like Vki said earlier, the spoiler-heavy one. Very spoiler-heavy.
So spoilers. So much spoil.
Yes, but before we spoil things, let's talk about who we're doing this week.
Ooh.
Who are you doing this week, Vki?
So I am continuing on with Cupid Parasite, and I am playing Alan from Cupid Parasite, who, interestingly enough, is an incubus.
He's hot, isn't he?
I think he's very sexualized, but he's also, like, his character design is not my type.
Okay.
Yeah, but he is. He's an incubus. He's very, like, sexy, sensual, that type of character. And I don't know. I mean, you know me. That doesn't particularly do it for me. I like my men loud.
I agree. Well, the character that I am doing is Mozart from Ikemen, but he is not a loud character. He's grumpy, but he's not loud.
Oh, so he's your type.
He's definitely my type. Oh, my goodness. Those piano hands. Ah! He's wonderful. Now, I've been going back to Ikemen because at some point we'll want to do a episode of the infamous name that I don't even want to say.
Mobile romance be shonen on the go, and how did I end up romancing this hot guy on my phone? Ultra hot guy.
That's right.
I love that name.
Well, either way, I'm trying to get through Mozart's route, and still I'm enjoying it. No problems there.
Well, I am enjoying watching you go through it because I get screenshots with random stuff of him being grumpy and you being like, ah! And it makes me happy to see you happy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because I know that if Mozart were to say those things to you, you'd be like, ugh, you're annoying. You're grumpy boy.
Not into the grumpy. I'm grumpy enough. Anyways, moving on to today's topic, we are going to do some route overviews and also our thoughts on some of the endings. But first, I think we need to go and talk about exactly why our beloved MC Lily got dragged into this whole mess in the first place.
Yeah. So the premise of this story revolves around Lily being what they call the Kagi no Otome, or the key maiden. And she has a very specific role to play in Berlone. The idea is that the Kagi no Otome is chosen by the stars, and there's a faction of the church that gets to kind of like oversee this. And the purpose of being the Kagi no Otome is that she's one half of the key, I guess. She's the key to the lock, maybe, in unlocking what they call the relic. And let's talk about the second half of the key first.
The second half is a member of the Falzone family, and there is a reason why the Falzone family are called the Grave Keepers, because basically you need the key maiden and a member of the Falzone family to do something and to unlock this relic, which happens to be
Jesus' grave.
Jesus' grave.
So, as it is told in the legend, Berlone is the place where a member of the Falzone family had brought Jesus' body after he died, and the church actually protects that. It's a relic. So, there's this whole legend around the key maiden, the grave keepers, and that's what Piofiore is about, at least in a very core way.
Yeah, it's basically the reason why Lily gets dragged into things, because a member of the church decides that they want to use Lily, the key maiden, in order to further their political career, and it kind of brings to the front all of these issues and this legend, and that's why suddenly everyone is after Lily, and Lily is like, oh my god, what the heck's going on? So yeah, that poor Lily.
Yeah. So actually, Lily doesn't know she's the key maiden at the beginning of any of the routes, but the Falzone family, who are the Gravekeepers, they do know.
Yeah, they do know.
Because their job is to protect her and to protect the relic. Mm-hmm. So why don't we start talking about the first root overview? And that's going to be Dante's root.
Yeah, because Dante's root has a lot to do with the legend of the Key Maiden and Lily and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But before we start talking about Dante, I know that there's somebody who you really wanted to talk about, Vka.
So the beginning of Dante's root doesn't actually start with Dante. Lily actually gets kidnapped by the Falzone, and she spends most of her time with a character called Leo, who is great. Basically, he's her bodyguard while she's living with the Falzone, and Leo is wonderful. He spends time with her, he brings her gifts. He basically is like, I know you're here because you don't want to be here, but I will be here with you, and I will be next to you, and I will be your friend while you're here. And they become really close, and Leo's really lovely, and he takes her to the church sometimes, and I love Leo. He's a great character.
You know, we're going to talk about him in Sidetracked by Side characters, and you'll be able to gush as much as you want. But the fact of the matter is, he is not an ally. So I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about Dante.
We'll talk about Dante. Okay. So Dante, the reason why he became the capo of the Falzone is because his dad actually died when he was younger. And we said this in the last episode. But usually the leader of the Falzone family knows the story or the legend of the Kagino Otomate, and they know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and a big issue here is the fact that Dante's father died before he could tell Dante, actually, and Nicola, the entire story of the legend in the Kagino Otomate. So basically, all that Dante knows is that the Falzone family is there to protect this relic, and he's working for the church, and they need to protect Lily because she is the Key Maiden.
That's right.
But he does not know what the Key Maiden is. He does not know what his part in the legend is, and he does not know how to do anything in order to unlock the relic or anything like that.
Yeah, they don't actually find out how to unlock the relic until the very end of his route. And at some point, they relay the legend that says that the Falzone blood and the Key Maiden have to connect, and they have to, like, do something or create something called the Eighth Sacrament.
Yeah, and it's great because you find out at the end that the Eighth Sacrament is really Dante's penis. They have to bone. That is what they have to do. Dante and Lily have to have sex, and then they unlock Jesus' grave.
It sounds absurd. It sounds absurd, but it is true.
This is the plot of this game.
That is the plot of this game, literally. And you know that Dante's penis is the Eighth Sacrament because Lily has a birthmark on her chest that changes color after she bones Dante. So, like, that's how they know that she's the Key Maiden, is that she has this birthmark, but also it changes color, and Jesus is unlocked. What a strange accomplishment for a game.
I really, really, really hope that Okay, so please nobody get angry at us for saying this. We're just relaying the plot of the game.
Yeah. Yep. Yes, exactly. So, very interesting. I love the legend. I love all of the religious aspects that they put into it, but that's how this goes, basically.
Yeah, and because of this, and a reoccurring theme in this game is that the Key Maiden has to be a virgin. Because unlocking this whole thing, it has to be, like, a member of the Falzone family. It has to be Dante and Lily to unlock it. And so once Lily's no longer a virgin, then she loses her value to the church. So that comes up a couple of times in the game. But I think Dante's root is really the only one where you really find out directly, kind of like, oh, well, this is why.
Yeah. Lily actually worries a lot in this route that the reason that she's being protected by Dante, and she knows that she's falling in love with him, is because she's important to the church, not because she's important to Dante. And she actually doesn't know that Dante really has loved Lily for basically his entire life.
Yeah, it's really cute because since he's part of the Falzone family from a very, very young age, his dad pointed Lily out to him and was like, you're supposed to protect this girl. And so he just kind of, like, watched her growing up, not in a creepy way, but in, like, a little boy who has a crush on a little girl but is too afraid to talk to them kind of way.
Yeah, and Dante really wanted to protect Lily from afar. He was hoping that they would never have to go through this whole Kagino Otome situation because he basically wanted her to live an average, normal life. Mm-hmm. He wanted her to be happy, and that's something very special.
Yeah. I mean, the average normal life obviously did not work out. The happy depends on the end.
Exactly. Depends on what route you're going through and what the decisions you make. Mm-hmm. Thus is an Otome game. But I really like their bonding process regardless, because even though he didn't tell her that he loved her for a long time, they still organically got to bond and be with each other, even though they happened to do it in a hideout where they lived together because
I don't know
the Falzone house got ransacked and attacked.
Yeah, I don't know how organic I'd call that. They literally had to go and, like, live together, just the two of them in a little hideout.
But what I'm saying is that their, like, emotions and their connection, even though they're living together and they don't get to talk to anyone else, is happening, but they do get to know each other. Dante's already has his emotions. Like, he knows he likes Lily.
Mm-hmm. You know what this part of Dante's route reminds me of? You know the Korean TV show We Got Married?
Yeah, I do.
It's like that.
It kind of is, yeah, because she cleans the house, she makes dinner and food, and Dante works. And they're forced to live together. Okay, so you're right, it probably wasn't very organic. But needless to say, I still think their relationship is a good relationship.
Yeah, I mean, once they start talking to each other, it is, but there is definitely a lot of, they're both pretty awkward. I mean, Dante more so than Lily, but Lily has the whole thing about how she's, like, really anxious about him not liking her because it's her. So it does take a while for them to open up to each other, but once they do, I do think it becomes very, very cute.
Agree. And that doesn't stop in the hideout, because at some point in Dante's route, Nicola drugs Lily, takes her from the hideout, and he, when I say he, I mean Nicola and Lily go live with Gil for a while.
I mean, I was okay with that. I like living with Gil.
The Visconti house is a great place to be. But yeah, the biggest conflict in Dante's route is actually Nicola's betrayal of the Falzone family, because he has his own agenda. He does not want Dante to follow this legend or be part of it. Like, he knows, or he thinks, that it's going to ruin Dante's life, and he's trying to protect him.
Yeah, but the way that he goes about it is really just not great, and sometimes ends up with him dead. Yeah.
But I think, at least in this route, and this is something we said in the last episode, is that we get to learn a lot about the Kagino Otome plotline. So it's kind of like a clean little package. In their best end, like, they don't even need to use the relic, and they're able to just live happily ever after. But that's their fate. Like, they were fated together. Lily is the one chosen by the stars. Dante has loved Lily for his whole life, and he is a gravekeeper, and it's very clean. Wraps up very prettily. Yeah,
it does. So that's Dante's route. Shall we go on to the main antagonist in Dante's route? Well, I don't know if he's the main, but he's the problem.
He's one of the biggest problems. Nicola is one of the biggest problems in Dante's route. Nicola is also one of the biggest problems in Nicola's route.
Nicola is his own problem, yes. So Nicola's cousin complex is the problem.
Yes.
And a lot of the problems at the beginning do stem from the fact that Lily gets brought to the Falzone family house, and Nicola sees Lily and Dante getting kind of close to each other, and so Nicola kind of tries to seduce Lily in a way. Like,
he does.
He tries to get her to fall in love with him, and then when Lily's not dumb. Like, she knows that he doesn't actually like her. So what ends up happening is Nicola kidnaps her. Like, he holds a gun to her head, and he's like, well, we're leaving. And they go and live with Gil, which, like I said before, I have no complaints about. Like,
great place to be.
Great place to be.
Yeah,
they're very friendly there.
Yeah, Nicola, I mean, they're very friendly at the Falzone house, too.
Yeah, but they don't let her leave.
They don't let her leave, yeah.
In the Visconti house, they let her kind of do whatever.
As long as she's safe. I don't know. In the beginning of Nicola's route, when they're living at the Falzone house, she really does want to get to know people. She wants to get to know Nicola. She wants to get to know Dante. And she tries her best to help out. But Nicola puts her in all kinds of weird situations.
Yeah, like he tries to make her uncomfortable because he does not want her there. But the way he does it is really manipulative.
Yeah, it is. After he betrays the Falzone again and goes to live with the Visconti, i.e. Gil, he has his own kind of agenda there. He wants to save Dante by betraying Dante.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. And I really love Lily in this route because I just think that she is so smart. Like, she knows that Nicola is not being truthful at the beginning, but she's kind of into him. She knows that he's lying and she knows that he has some type of other agenda, but she's like, okay, yeah, like, I want to get to know him. I want to spend time with him. And then once he, like, kind of shows his quote-unquote true colors and his agenda, and they're in the Visconti household, Lily's basically like, yeah, you know what? I'm into this. I'm into this guy. This one's gonna be mine.
And Nicola's like, wait, no. Oh, wait, actually, yeah, I do love you.
Yeah, it takes a while, but Nicola is just, it's really, really funny because I think Lily knows that he's into her, but he's, like, kind of pretending that he's not. And she's not about that. She's like, no, like, I like you, you like me. Sure, there's other shit going on, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, I really like Lily in this route. I think that this is one of the reasons why I wanted to play Nicola's route first. Because Lily is a pretty astonishing woman. Like, I really like the way she behaves and she interacts with other people. Dante and Nicola's relationship isn't the only issue in this route. No. Actually.
So the Lao Shu, Yan is always an issue. Yan's an issue in every route.
That's true. We didn't mention him in Dante's route, but he's definitely a big issue in Dante's route.
He's trying to kidnap and murder people all the time, so just keep that in mind.
Yes, he's always a problem.
But in Nicola's route, there's also a side character who becomes a very, very important character. There's a police officer named Roberto who is new to Berlone, and he comes in and he's like, I'm gonna eradicate the Mafia. And he and Nicola, in particular, are at odds. Roberto has a thing for Lily.
He does. Like, he sees Lily as some sort of beacon of innocence, or I don't even know what to call it, but he has a huge thing for Lily and he wants to protect her.
Yeah, and in most of the other routes, this isn't an issue. Like, it's fine. Like, Roberto is actually a character who I want to talk about in Sidetrack by Side Characters. But the problem is, in Nicola's route, when he sees Lily and Nicola getting close to each other, it basically drives him insane.
Yeah, it drives him mad.
He turns into yandere, and in sometimes it ends very, very badly for Lily, but and sometimes it ends very, very badly for Roberto. It did kind of make me a little bit sad because he was a side character who I liked quite a bit, and in Nicola's route, he changed a lot.
Yeah, he's one of the main antagonists there. Yeah, no, I thought that was pretty nuts, because you kind of, at least for me playing it as the first route that I played through, it kind of came out of left field. Like, I did not understand why all of a sudden this policeman is, like, going after Nicola so hard, but it's because of Lily. And his feelings for Lily. But as you play through the other routes, you realize, like, Roberto's actually not a bad guy.
No,
he's really great, actually.
He has a very strong sense of justice. And he's coming from outside of Berlone, so he doesn't really understand how Berlone works in terms of how the Mafia interacts with the people.
Yes, that's right. So when he first comes from Rome and he starts working with Marco, who is the lead investigator.
He's a senior investigator.
Marco tries to explain to him, like, oh, you know, we actually work with the Mafia. Like, the Mafia keeps the town safe and everything. But
Roberto's not about that.
He's like, no. Mafia bad, okay? Law good.
So yeah, that definitely comes into play a lot in Nicola's route.
But I think in Nicola's route, I really like the way Lily behaves, and I kind of went on a tangent about Roberto a bit. But she and Nicola, I think, have a very, what's the word? Like, they keep each other on their toes. I think that's great.
They do.
Yeah.
He's pretty constantly surprised by her.
Yeah.
Like it's really funny because he seems like this really cool, suave dude, but once he and Lily get closer, a lot of the time she'll do or say something and he'll be like, "Why? Why would you do that? I don't understand." And Lily's like, "Well, you gotta deal with it."
Yep. I think it was their, like, good after story, he tries to, like, play a little trick on her, and she sees it coming, and she's not about it. And he's like, he gets all hurt and sad, and then he actually does do something to kind of surprise her, and then he gets happy about it. So it's really cute that they're, like equal playing fields, basically. It's really good. I really like Nicola as ally. So, how about our next ally? You want to go through?
The murder puppy?
The murder puppy. Orlok.
Yeah. Murder puppy for the church.
Yes.
So Orlok's thing, as we said in our last episode, is that he is a disciple apostle for the church. He's basically an assassin. A highly, highly trained assassin from the time that he was a very small child, which is why his emotional and social growth is so stunted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of it, but also he doesn't have a family, or at least he doesn't think he has a family, and it turns out that the person who is his father is the person that is
basically his boss.
Basically his boss.
Yeah.
And so this high-ranking member of the church, Joseph von Roseburg, is the one who kind of, like, leads him on his missions. He trains him throughout his childhood to be the person he is. But he's actually his dad. You know, this guy shouldn't be having children because church. But what actually happens is he becomes Orlok's boss, and Orlok has no idea where he came from.
Yeah.
He just knows that Joseph von Roseburg is, like, the person who led him into this life.
And it's really interesting because Orlok looks up to him as a father figure.
Yeah.
So, and there's only one end where you actually find out that he is Orlok's father, and I think that really, 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 really throws Orlok.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think you also find out that he's Orlok's father in the true end. But I don't think Orlok finds out.
No.
But in Orlok's ending, he does find out. And that kind of is a lot of the stemming to his bad ends. But before we talk about his bad ends, we just want to talk a little bit about Orlok and what his purpose is. So the whole apostle thing, this is something we were talking about in the last episode again, is that he has a role. And his role, given by the church, is to, one, make sure that the Falzone fulfills their role as the gravekeepers, and two, ensure that they keep Lily safe. Not necessarily Lily, but the Vka and Otomate. Right? So he gets these orders from the church, and in this route, I thought it was kind of strange because in every route, they kind of work together with the Falzone, but in Orlok's route and in Jan's route, like, for some reason, Joseph von Roseburg goes haywire and decides that he wants to, like, take apart the Falzone.
So, basically, only a few people in the church know how to unlock the relic. Very, very, very few people. Joseph von Roseburg? Yeah, the guy. He does not know. He just knows that you need the key maiden to do it. And so he thinks that he needs to get the key maiden, but since the Falzone family protects the key maiden, he needs the Falzone family out of the way. So
yeah, because he wants to have Berlone under his control.
He is up for being the next pope. And so he wants the power that he thinks Lily has.
Yeah.
Even though on her own, Lily doesn't actually have power.
Right. She's only half of the key, right? But yeah, he decides that he wants to work with the Lao Shu, who is not Italian, not part of the Berlone Mafia originally, because he's got his own agenda for sure.
And the Lao Shu will basically do anything for money.
That's right, regardless of what the ask is. Yeah.
Little tangent there, but that is why Orlok ends up working with the Lao Shu, and so what happens is that Orlok and Lily live with the Lao Shu at the beginning of Orlok's route.
Yeah, at the beginning of Orlok's route, they spend all of their time in the Lao Shu base.
Which is really
Which I thought
weird.
Was very strange. So basically, like, you get to eat a lot of Chinese food. They get to meet the twins, Fei and Lan, and just become a constant annoyance to Jan.
Yeah. They don't stay there for very long.
They don't. Well, because at some point, Jan realizes, this girl's actually kind of important. I don't need to be like, doing this for the church. I can do whatever I want to do. And then Orlok is like, okay, there's bad juju here. We need to leave.
And so they go and stay in a one-room hovel in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so not only with Dante does she get to live in a hideout and be in close quarters with only one person, but she gets to do this with Orlok, too.
Yeah, it's like We Got Married, except in a teeny tiny shack with, like, no bed.
Exactly. Yeah, sad situation. But yeah, they do get to bond and, you know, become closer in that way as well.
Yeah. But one big thing about Orlok that's definitely very different from the other allies is that Orlok has, like, he doesn't know what romance is. He doesn't understand his feelings for Lily. Lily actually at one point even thinks to herself, because Orlok says that he likes her, and Lily realizes, oh, when he says that, he means it like a child's kind of like.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand this.
Even in the after stories and his best end, I don't think he really understands the feelings that he has for Lily.
Yeah, it's very pure.
It is very pure. I did really like their ending, though.
It's cute.
It's very cute. It's very wholesome because they get to live happily ever after under the protection of the church.
After everyone else dies.
Everyone else is dead, but, like, she's safe with him at the church. Really cute.
Anyways, you want to talk about someone who isn't wholesome?
Jan? Our trash bag man? Our sexy trash bag?
Man, sexy trash bag. Murder, drugs, human trafficking.
Oh, my.
You'll die a lot in Jan's route. I think out of all of the routes, Jan's route is the one that has the most, like, short bad ends, where Lily just falls down a flight of stairs and breaks her neck, or gets stabbed by someone, or just gets attacked by a random high person, or, just all sorts of death.
You die a lot. A lot. Like, you die in other routes as well, but in Jan's, you're constantly in danger.
Yeah. Oh, did I mention that he traffics drugs and humans, too?
Yeah, a lot of bad things going on with Jan. But somehow you end up staying there because of Orlok again. But yeah, you die a lot. So does everyone else, to be honest. A lot of people die in Jan's route.
A lot of people die in this game in general.
Yeah. Yeah, there's really, I don't want to say romance. I mean, there's a lot of sexy stuff in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of sex in this game, but there really isn't a lot of romance because...
In the root, yeah.
Yeah, and kind of like Orlok, actually, Jan doesn't really understand feelings, but it's in a very different way from Orlok. Jan, I mean, and we said this in the last episode, Jan's two emotions are bored and not bored, and sex makes him not bored.
Yeah. So basically, Lily living with Jan is because of Orlok, and Dante is trying to get her back because, you know, he knows why he needs her. Jan doesn't really know why he needs her, but, you know, he's there because church and money. So basically he just goes about his business doing his murder and drugs and human trafficking stuff. Like, nobody's business. Like, he even takes her on business trips, basically. Yeah. There's this one point where they get on a ship because the Li Huanghui is trafficking women out of Berlone. And they are on this ship to do some exchange. Dante and Gil find out. Dante's like, we have to destroy Jan. And what ends up happening is the boat blows up. Do you want to go over how the boat blows up?
Yeah, sure. Gil shoots it with a missile. I mean, we said this in the last episode, too. Gil is the type of man to bring a cannon to a gunfight. In this case, he brings a missile. And blows up the ship that Lily and Jan are on.
Yes. Well, fortunately, Lily gets saved, and everyone gets back to Veleno safely. Veleno is the place where Jan's base is. The Lao Shu lives. And it kind of derails from there. There's not a lot of plot. There's not a lot of story relating to the Key Maiden.
Oh, no, not at all.
It actually completely diverges because she's just kind of living there with him, and she doesn't want to go back to the church. I feel like she's got Stockholm Syndrome at this point.
Yeah.
And there's this point in the game where he's like, okay, well, you know, you're here, I'm here, you do whatever you want. But she wants to stay. And she ends up somehow finding out that her best friend, Elena, lives with the second in command of the Lao Shu, but this guy has his own agenda. Yeah. And he wants to be the next Jan.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really sad because, you know, the Lao Shu is trafficking women from Berlone, and Lily's best friend, Elena, gets kidnapped. And she's going to be trafficked, and Jan's number 2 just happens to see her and is like, oh, I like her face, I guess I'll keep her, and gets her hooked on drugs.
Yes, this really super powerful drug. And that's another part of Jan's route, is that this drug is going crazy. Jan doesn't know where it's coming from, but it's actually coming from his second in command, who's creating the drug. Everyone's going nuts. Like, it's bonkers. Yeah,
and here's the thing about Jan's route. Jan's route will either end poorly or it will end very poorly. Like, it's amazing because there is a best end, there is a good end, and then there is a tragic end. And the best end is, I mean, okay, and then in the good end, Jan dies, and then in the tragic end, Lily dies. I don't know what's good about the good end, but, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Or sinks your boat, like Gil's missile. Let's talk about Gil. I don't think there's too much to say about Jan's route. It was very sexy, but not full of much romance, not full of much plot. I will say it was super exciting.
Yeah,
because there was a lot going on. Yeah, and also there are a lot of times where I respect Lily a lot, but in this route...
Stockholm Syndrome?
Stockholm Syndrome. There's really nothing she can do. She's stuck. And she has no help. So, I don't know. I think, at least in their best end, it's the best situation it could have been for her. I mean, to be honest, the best situation would have been her leaving him and him not being part of the picture. But I digress.
Let's talk about Gil!
Let's talk about Gil. Gil's route is actually the closest ending to the true end.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in order to do the true end, you're literally in Gil's route for 5 chapters.
Exactly. So the way that you end up with Gil is that it starts out where you're in a shootout, because, you know, guns and mafia. You're in a shootout in the church between the Lao Shu and the Falzone.
Orlok's there too.
Yes, Orlok is also there too. And what happens is Lily escapes because she knows that they're after her for some reason. But she runs away because, you know, why wouldn't you? She's got no shoes on. She's running and she ends up in...
Creta.
Yep. She ends up in Creta. And she runs into Gil. And Gil's like, oh, my fair maiden. What are you doing about with no shoes? You seem to be in distress. And Lily's like, yeah, I am in distress. I'm about to be kidnapped or murdered or I'm in danger. And he's like, why don't you come live with me?
And Lily's like, okay.
And he's like, okay. And he's like, you are going to be my honored guest now. He has no idea why.
Yeah, like she shows up and she's like, the Falzone family and these, like, Chinese people are trying to kidnap me and they're guns and they're shooting. And Gil's like, cool, you want to come stay in my guest room?
Yeah, and she's like, well, okay, this is the best option I've got. Because I think she's just in flight mode. Like, she's gotta go.
No, she ran halfway across town in her nightgown and barefoot, and he rescues her. And the thing is, like, in this type of game, if this situation happens, you would be very, very suspicious because a lot of bad things happen in this game. But no, he takes her to his home, he puts her in a guest room, he gives her a change of clothes, and he's like, you know what? Relax, chill, you're safe here.
I will protect you.
We will deal with it in the morning. And they do.
It's so great. Oh, I love Gil. Oh, I love Gil so much.
But besides that, and besides the issue with, like, the
legend?
Yeah, with the legend and with Jan and with all of that, that actually isn't the main overall issue.
Yeah.
In Gil's route.
So, with the other routes, barring Jan's route, because you don't learn much about the Kagina Otome, in Gil's route, there's an added layer of him being framed for counterfeiting the American dollar in Berlone. Yeah. And distributing it. So, he knows he doesn't do that. His lawyer knows he doesn't do that. And Lily is like, okay, well, I believe you.
Yeah, because and this is something I love about Gil. He explains it to her. He's like, it would be bad for me if I were counterfeiting the American dollar because it would devalue the money that's being distributed in Berlone, and I want the people of Berlone to prosper because that will make me prosper. And he sits her down and he talks to her about it, and it's wonderful because allies don't do that.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job, to be honest, and I was convinced, that's for sure. But it turns out that it's not him counterfeiting, just like he says. She believes him. He is telling the truth.
So the whole plotline is revolving around him being framed, and all of the Mafia end up coming together, and they're like, okay, we really need to put aside everything else right now because this is really, really, really bad for the town. But the police are really going after Gil hard.
Yeah. And it's not the police in Berlone, because the police in Berlone actually work with the Mafia. It's the police from Rome.
Yeah. So the police from Rome come in and they arrest Gil, and they end up doing horrible things to Gil when he's in custody.
And he's in custody multiple times in this route.
Yeah.
Like, they take him to jail. His lawyer,
Oliver!
Oliver's a great character. Oliver gets him out. They take him back in again. And they're at this point where he has to go to trial. And during that time where he has to go to trial, the church comes in and they say, you have to figure it out. Like, I don't care what you do, if you did it or you didn't do it, like, you have to figure this out because the relic needs to stay in Berlone.
Yeah.
We cannot have it under, like, Italian control, Italian military control. And so basically they're on a timeline. So this is why they end up working together, right? They go and they try to figure out who's counterfeiting the money, who's doing all this stuff, and they actually link it to the casino.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about the casino and why exactly the casino is working against the Berlone Mafia in just a minute.
Yeah. But in Gil's good ending, at least, like, they figure out who done it.
Who done it got arrested.
Exactly. And then Lily goes back to live at the church because Gil's like, hey, you do you. I don't want to force you to live here. You can, but, like, I just want to date you. And she's like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And so they date. And they have a relationship. And it's so fucking honest. Literally, this is one of the best love stories I've seen in an Otome game. Because there's no Stockholm Syndrome. There's no forcing. He just tells her how he feels. He waits for her to figure out how she feels. And then lets her tell him how she feels. And then he doesn't force her to live with him. She goes back to her home, and he goes and picks her up and goes on dates. They actually get to date. This is the only route in the game where Lily goes on a date.
I really, really loved the part of the story where Gil realized that he was falling for Lily because he clearly understood that there was a difference in power dynamic between them, and he realized that he couldn't say anything to her about his feelings because it would potentially put pressure on her to say yes, since he was protecting her. So he let her come to the conclusion that she was interested herself and let her control the pace.
Yeah. No, I thought that was beautiful. I really liked that scene of them sitting on the couch in the Visconti house and her being like, starting to have feelings and telling him, like, oh my gosh, I really like you. And he's like, I've known that I liked you, and I also knew that you liked me. but I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
It was
very
really
cute. Very, very cute. Anyways, obviously, we love Gil.
But we still have 2 more endings we need to talk about. So we've gone through all of the routes for the 5 main allies, but now we need to talk about the 6th and secret one, as well as the true end.
Yeah. So let's talk about the secret character first.
Okay.
Henri.
The tortured Frenchman.
Can you say his full name? Because I can't French.
Henri Lambert?
Yeah, I can't do that. So, Henri, you actually meet him quite a bit in this game, but you don't know because for the most part he's disguised as the character Direttore, and Direttore runs the casino.
Right. The place where the casino is in Arca. And Arca is neutral to all of the things that are going on in the Mafia. So all of the Mafia bosses, they go to the casino, and the Direttore is in on it, basically, and he lets them use the casino for their Mafia purposes, and it's a neutral ground.
Yeah, but...
This Direttore...
Yeah, what they don't know is that Henri is actually the younger brother of the previous Key Maiden. And the previous Key Maiden died when she and Henri were in the care of the Falzone family 20 or so years ago.
So he actually was not supposed to be the Direttore. He made that happen so that he could get revenge on the Berlone Mafia.
Yeah, he's impersonating another person right now. But Henri blames the Falzone family and the church for his sister's death, and he has spent his entire life trying to figure out how to get revenge on them / destroy the Mafia.
Yeah. that's one huge thing about Henri's route, is that everyone else, maybe barring Jan, is somewhat religious, right? But in Henri's route, he is completely anti-religion because he completely blames the church for everything that's happened to his life. And a lot of really bad stuff has happened in his life.
Yeah, and I can tell you this because I've played 1926, but Henri is a very, very, very important character in a lot of 1926, and you really find out a lot more about him and a lot more about the history of the Falzone family and the Key Maiden. And it's really sad.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad.
Yeah, even in this game, when you get to find out about, his relationship with his sister and why he's doing the things that he's doing, it's terrible. Like, he has nightmares every night. I feel so bad for this. He really is the tortured Frenchman.
He is. So, yeah, Henri is the secret character, so he does have an end. And in his end, he meets Lily throughout the game. They go on a couple of walks together.
One thing we should mention is that the direttore is the one who's counterfeiting the money.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So, we said that in the beginning of the true end, and in Henri's route, you're basically in Gil's route for 5 chapters. So Gil's still being framed for counterfeiting money, but you actually find out in this route that it is the direttore. It's him, because he wants to take down the Mafia, and he's got plans.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of like where his story comes in. And along the way, he meets Lily, he interacts with her, and he knows that she's the new Key Maiden.
Yeah, he knows. And after a decent amount of conversations with her, he deems that she's innocent, and it tries to convince her to leave behind the Mafia.
Yeah, he also questions her beliefs in God as well, a lot. There are a lot of conversations where she's like, yeah, God brought us together, and he's like, God? I'm sorry? God didn't do squat.
Yeah.
I don't believe in God. But she latches on to him very deeply. Like, he is very damaged and very, very troubled.
It's literally the I want to fix the broken man trope.
Yeah. I really hated this when I realized what was happening in this route, because it doesn't seem very Lily-like.
No, it really didn't.
Yeah.
Like she's kind, but she's not self-sacrificing like this.
Exactly. She didn't really get a chance to bond with him. With the rest of the LIs, like, she spends enough time with them, she's able to fall in love with them. But in this route, you don't get any of that, and all of a sudden she decides she wants to be with him.
Yeah, and by be with him, we don't actually mean in a romantic way.
Yeah.
She wants to help him, and so when they find out that he is the one who has been counterfeiting the American dollars, that he's been trying to frame the Berlone Mafia for everything, he goes to escape Berlone, and she is literally like, I'm gonna come with you. I'm gonna follow you. There's no romance here.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, Henri basically just gives in and lets her come along with him.
Yeah.
And that's it.
In the after stories, you do get a little bit of their connection. Like, they end up skipping town because they have to.
They move to France.
Yeah, Lily has to learn French. But French? Did I say French?
French. Lily learns French.
Lily has to learn French, and they take care of a whole bunch of orphans. It's really cute. But he has this whole thing about touching. Like, he does not feel that he deserves her touch.
He doesn't like being touched.
He does not like being touched. So they hold hands, I think, at some point in one of the good ends or one of the after ends, and that's all the romance you get. Yeah. So I'm sure there's going to be more with Henri in 1926, so I'm looking forward to that. But in this route, it really threw me for a loop how Lily reacted and how the ending went. But you do get the whole picture.
Yeah, that's true. And the true end, interestingly enough, is actually very similar to Gil's route. In the true end, everyone bands together to defeat Henri/Direttore, and he blows up the casino, dying in the process. But what ends up happening is that it's, instead of, like, Lily falling in love with someone and going and being with them, she just goes and lives at the church again, and now she has more friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really cute, actually. So there's a point in the game, maybe around chapter 5, I can't remember exactly what it was, but she has to decide whether she wants to go back to live with the Visconti, and then you end up in Gil's route, and she falls in love with Gil, or you go back to the church, and then the church becomes the hub for where all of the meetings are taking place, when the Mafia comes, because at some point they find out they can't go to the casino anymore, because the Direttore is the one who's causing all of these problems. And he's in charge of the casino.
Yeah.
So they go to the church, they have all these meetings, and everyone comes and goes, like, here and there to check on Lily, to have conversations with her, and they all kind of, in their own way, bond and become friends, or, like, build some sort of, like, relationship with her, but there's no real romance in the true end, which I thought was really nice. Like, I felt really good about that. Not only that, but in the true end, Lily has a huge part in solving the problems. Like, her opinion's taken into consideration. She helps them make a lot of decisions. She finds out information. Now that we've talked about all of the roots in detail, let's go over our thoughts on the endings.
So first we're going to talk about the best of the best ends.
And we agree on this. The best of the best ends is Gil.
Gil.
End of story.
Yeah.
His best end, he gets, absolved of all of the crimes that he's being framed against, and they live happily ever after. Like, there's really nothing wrong with Gil's end.
Yeah, it's great. Well,
they fall in love, they have a great relationship. I cannot complain about Gil's ending.
Well, Nicola's dead.
That is sad, isn't it?
We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, best of the best ends, Gil's.
Yes. Worst of the worst ends?
Worst of the worst ends. Do you want to go first?
For me, the worst of the worst ends is Orlok's route. Because throughout all of the routes, I feel like I understand Dante a little bit better. But in Orlok's route, he basically kidnaps Lily. Orlok comes to save her, and then he cuts Orlok's Achilles' heel so he can't walk. And he keeps Lily as a prisoner for the rest of her life, or at least for the rest of the time she's useful. And it is implied that he forces her to engage in the 8th sacrament. So that's pretty fucked up. I really hated that ending. It made me feel terrible.
Yeah.
What about for you?
So mine, I'll definitely have to go with the infamous one, which is Jan's worst end, Jan's tragic end. And in that one, the Falzone family kidnap Lily, and so she's at their house, and Jan comes to save her. And basically, it was a trap, and they were expecting it, and so they're fighting, and everyone else gets killed, and Jan realized that he's been pushed into a corner. And Jan kind of asks Lily, like, oh, like, do you want me to live? Like, would you try to save me? And she's like, yeah. And so he, like, grabs her. He shoves her towards Dante, who is trying to shoot Jan. And then Jan stabs his sword through Lily into Dante, killing them both.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And then he escapes.
That's pretty bad.
And murders a prostitute in the after end, but there's that.
Yeah, no, I think that's also bad. Well, for me, since Lily didn't die and she endured torture, that's kind of the worst, but I understand the dying because your boyfriend basically had no other choice but to kill you.
I mean, he could have just, like, died or gotten captured himself, but instead he's like, nah, I'm gonna stab my girlfriend.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
We do have a special mention. Best of the worst ends.
Ah, yes. Okay. So this ending made me laugh really hard because it's really not a bad end.
It's better than some of the good ends.
It is better than some of the good ends. Lily stays alive. Gil stays alive. Nobody's in prison. And they just have to live their lives.
Yeah. So in Gil's tragic end, basically what happens is he gets convicted of the counterfeiting, and the Visconti breaks him out of prison. He realizes that he has to flee the country. And he realizes that he can't flee the country with Lily because it will put her in danger.
That's right.
And so they have a very, like, sad parting.
And she really wants to go with him.
Yeah.
She tries to go with him twice.
She does.
And even Oliver's like, okay, I will help you so that you can go. And Gil Gil's like, no, can do.
Danger, too much danger. But yeah, it's true. They're both alive. They're both relatively safe.
Lily goes back to the church.
Gil
Gil goes off into, I don't know where land, because he's on the run.
But it also leaves it open, because Gil basically says, like, as soon as things get resolved, I can come back and get you.
Yeah. So that's not really a tragic end.
It's really not that bad.
It was better than some of the good ends, I'll be honest.
Yeah. So, Vka, what are your final thoughts about Piofiore?
Like I said in the last episode, I really like Piofiore. I think it's a great game. It's really interesting. Also, the whole plotline of Henri really did it in for me, because it was just more on top of all of the really cool and interesting things that were already happening. So, I don't know. I'm really excited to see what happens in the sequel. What about you?
Nicola dies a lot.
That's your final thought?
That is my final thought. Nicola dies a lot in this game.
Yeah.
Like, and in some of the routes, he dies really early, too.
Yeah. Agree. Nicola does die a lot. So I'll be really sad when I play 1926 and he's not there in some cases.
Oh, the beginning of 1926 is, in each route, is literally a recap of who is dead and who is not.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I would say overall we enjoyed this game, and all of the twists and turns and all of the secret things made it that much better.
Yes.
Yeah. So, let's sign off, shall we?
Shall we?
Thanks for joining us on our very spoiler-heavy episode of Reviews and Twos, Piofiore, Fates, something or other.
Faded memories.
Faded memories. If you like what you hear and would like to support us, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account where you can donate to us, keeping the podcast going.
We also have a Twitter and Instagram where you can stay updated on what we're up to and other cool Otomate-related stuff.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Bye!